Hey guys, what's going on? Bringing you guys the, what is this, episode 6 of Elevated with Lance and Lauren. So I'm Lance, and obviously...
I'm Lauren.
I set you up for like...
Why are you introducing us?
Because I just wanted to see like what your response would be if I said, and this is, I didn't know if it was going to be, I'm Lauren, or if it was going to be just, I'm Lauren, question mark, which is what we got. So... I will not do that for...
You don't tell me if you're going to do stuff like that.
No, I'm going to do that every time. I was just going to say I will not make that the last time I do that because that was funny. So, in all seriousness, guys, thanks for joining in. We're excited to be here. And the fact of the matter is we're talking with you guys about specifically how do we stay aligned with our goals and our ideal lives when unexpected or just bad stuff happens.
So uncertainty would be another big word we could use there.
So one of the 6 basic human needs is certainty, and of course the second one is variety. Of course, we're not talking about that today. We've got plenty of variety going on.
I don't need any variety.
What we need now is a little bit more certainty. So what we want to kind of talk to you guys today about is, here's the deal. There are some crazy things that are happening in the world, and we're not going to talk about those crazy things, but we are going to talk about how this stuff can rock you. It can rock your faith. It can cause you to start focusing on things that aren't there. It can put you in storytelling mode. Yeah. That's not a good thing. That's not you sitting around with the grandkids around a fire. Storytelling mode is you convincing yourself that your emotions are 100% true and accurate, and that's what's going on in the world. So nevertheless, we kind of came up with a couple of things that have helped over our span, because let me tell you guys may not know this, but my gosh, if Lauren and I wanted to write a book on some of the events that we've gone through, we've just not, made them public, but man, we've seen our fair share. We've seen,
You could write a couple volumes.
It absolutely, for sure.
We were actually just talking last night. We celebrate 17 years of marriage in, I think, 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, something like that. It depends.
It's the 20th today, so whatever the math is between now and the 7th.
Okay, there we go. In a little bit. And we were just talking about all of the things in 17 years of marriage that we have been through, and even just had a few revelations last night that we prayed
money
about.
Problems and...
Yeah, just so many different things. And so last night, it was just like one of those things, we're having this discussion, talking about all these things, and we got to pray over some things that was just like revelational for us. Right. And so... the point is to tell you guys that as we sit here and do this video today, it's kind of why we chose this topic, because there's just so much uncertainty.
Yeah, and that leads to unrest.
It does. Fear, overwhelm. And, the thing is, it doesn't have to be just uncertainty about, something small. I mean, some of you guys I know you've got health issues that are causing a lot of uncertainty. Your family life, some of you guys might be going through divorces. Some of you got, there's so many different things that just cause uncertainty.
Losing a family member.
Yeah, definitely. There's just...
My gosh, man. And this year, I mean, we had some different things happen. Everybody had, a crazy year this year, so we're not going to compare, who had it worse and all this. We know that everybody had just like a really severe year. And the fact is that the reason that we chose to do this topic is because one thing that we get more often than anything is whenever people are interested in our fitness program, that they start letting us know, wait a second, I've got this thing coming up in 3 weeks and I'm going to be really stressed out. And so
should I wait?
That's what they ask is, should I wait? Should I wait till after the holiday? Should I wait for after this thing? And our answer is, you start when you're ready. But if you're ready now and you're thinking that strategically you should wait for this, the answer is no, don't do that.
Right.
The reason is number one is because you're already setting yourself up for a failure. And that failure is you've convinced yourself that you cannot stay the course of your journey on your path when something negative happens or when things are out of your control.
So true.
So we decided we want to do a video. This is not about fitness, by the way. This is about specifically, how do I continue to go on and live my life, pursue goals, build my business, tell my kids that life is still worth pursuing, and how do I remind myself on certain days like this that even if I've been through some form of a travesty recently, or one of the things that I think that comes up for Lauren and I is we've seen a lot of things that didn't go our way over the years, and it's hard to hold out hope that when a similar situation is here that it's going to go the different way. What do you do with that? Do you need advice here? Do you need, is this where you need somebody to hold you and tell you everything's going to be okay? Well, those are maybe soothing things, but what do we do with this? And that's what we're going to unpack a little bit today. is when these things happen, because you need to understand it's not a matter, you cannot avoid, not in your fitness, not in your marriage, not in your business, you're not going to be able to avoid these some sort of unforeseen events or even cataclysmic events that happen. You know, back in 2008 or 9, we're building up our business. We feel like we're doing really well, and we get this opportunity to grow the business, which it desperately needs. So we're looking at a rental space for our studio. Well, that same year, we lost a little over $100,000 of equity, and we're very young at the time, 22, 23. And that led us to a point to where we've got this business that we're so passionate about, we feel like God has led us into, and we lost $100,000 on our home. Yep. We had to make a very tough choice, and that year was the year that we walked away from our home. Yep. We had to do a short sale on our home. We lost everything for there. Yep. Fortunately, it only affected my credit, not hers, but for 7 years that stayed on there, and we moved in with Lauren's parents. Yep. Thank you guys for that. Yep. And did we want to do any of that? No. The point is, why share that story? It's not of a, oh my gosh, sorry you went through that. That's not it. The point is, we had 2 choices here. We really had 3. Stay in the home, choose a job that maybe pays bills a little bit quicker with a little bit less overhead, but say goodbye to what you feel God called you to do and what you're passionate about. Second thing is, we move into, we take this space for our studio, but it means that we've got to say goodbye to this home that we were wanting, that we were really, wanting to build up, and as we, it wasn't going to work. And so that meant that if we were going to pursue the business, we were going to have to move in with somebody else. Okay, the third choice is basically we try and make it float while we're in the business, while we're in the house, trying to do all of those. And we knew that would probably end up, my mentality there was chase 2 rabbits and they both get away. So I didn't want to chase the house and chase the business. So what did we do? We knew that the more eternal thing for us to choose, the one that was less finite, the one that was less temporary, was the business. That had our heart. It was our passion. It was changing the lives of people. And we knew that if we just stayed with it, we're going to see it succeed. Yeah. So how did we determine, all right, Lauren, well, here we are, we're married, and we're trying to be excited about this business, but we're going to move in with my in-laws, with your parents, for the next year. We basically got to spend nothing. We can't, we don't have our own home anymore. We don't have our freedoms. How do we, try and convince ourselves that this is a good thing and that this year is still not a waste?
So one of the first things that we did, and this is something that I think that all of you need to know it's okay to do, you grieve the loss.
Absolutely must.
I mean, I don't know if that's surprising for some of you guys to hear, but I think some people, it's easier to just bury that pain, that emotion.
Grin and bear it, and I'm just going to get through it. Wrong, don't do that.
No, we grieved the loss.
Very much so.
Because we knew that was a decision we were going to have to make, but it was a hard one, and it hurt. It hurt to give up our home. Yeah. But we knew it was okay, God has given us this vision for this business, and it's going to require a sacrifice. Are we willing to make that sacrifice? And we were. And thank God we've had supportive family and things of that nature. I mean, my parents literally opened up their home, and we lived in their basement, which was finished with we had 4 cats at the time because Murdy was still alive. So we had 4 cats. My parents had 6 cats upstairs. So we had a house of 10 cats at my parents' house. It was crazy. And of course, they didn't intermix because it just doesn't work. But anyway, the point is that Lance and I grieved that. I mean, I honestly, I was angry. For quite a while, I was angry because I just felt like we were robbed from, we had this house and we got such a great deal on this house because of how we bought it, and the market fell apart and we just couldn't pay for it anymore. And we knew that it was either grow our business or stay in this house and try to, and it's hard.
It was.
So grieved.
And I won't go into the fact on a business and financial sense that understand, guys, that it was easy for me to make the decision logically to choose the business over the house, because unless your house is earning you money, meaning that you've got it paid off or you've got residual income coming from it, your house is not an asset. No. This is not Lance's opinion. This is Ken McElroy, Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump, all of these people long before he's president. And these are things that I learned. And so what I realize is that my house is a liability right now. My business is an asset. It's something that when I put $1 in, I'm getting $4 or $5 back. My house, I put $1 in, I get no dollars back. In fact, it costs me more. So your house is not an asset at that point. So for us, we knew logically this was the right thing to do, and we prayed, and we knew that God was leading us to this. But we had to, once we grieved and we made our peace with this, we still could have gone into this attitude of like, well, what's the point? I mean, and then let the business doesn't do well because you're just kind of, or you stop working out because you're like, well, this
Actually,
happens,
Not to mention, I think for me, I can't speak for you, so you can confirm whether or not this is true, but I was also embarrassed for people to find out that we had given up our home for our business. Like, it felt embarrassing to me to know that we had, we had to short sell our home and we were living with my parents. Like, because we had gotten, everyone was always like, you're getting married too young. You guys don't know what you're doing and you're this and you're that. And here we are after however many years it was, 7 or 8 years, we're moving back in with my parents because we're trying to get this business to grow and now we can't afford to live in the home. Yeah. So, I mean, I dealt with the shame of that.
Yeah, there was shame surrounding it for sure. I don't think that I really worried as much as like what people from school said, just because a lot of them I had begun learning, the cash flow quadrants of Robert Kiyosaki, and I was already seeing like, yeah, some of these people are making money, but they're doing X, Y, and Z. They don't understand the full business or the finance. So it's like, I know we're doing this. Yeah, and it's like, I know we're doing this because it does logically make sense, and it is like on paper and logically, it is mathematically more sensible than what most people were doing. So in that sense, that's probably what got me through that moment. And just knowing that like, yeah, we were willing to say, we don't need the house because we believe in this business that much.
Very much
so. The reason that we're talking about this, guys, is because we had a choice ahead. For that full year that we were there, we could have, pretty much just kind of given up on our goals or just put them on pause and be like, well, we're hit our goals like once we're out of here again or once we see this, but we didn't. We decided that, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to start setting some sort of precedent here that before we get, to this point, we've got a plan, and this plan is surrounded based on what it is that our desired outcome is. And what I mean by that is that we didn't just say, okay, well, I hope we make it. It was more like, okay, if we make this happen, we're going to live here with your parents. We're going to put back X amount of money regardless, even if we don't want to, even if this, even if that. We're also going to take the time, and this is time for us to build up our business, and we're going to have the time now because we're not taking care of some house right now. We're going to focus on our fitness. So we put a plan together that said, yeah, this is not an ideal situation, but here's what this year can bring for us. And that's what it did. So we had exponential growth in the business. We had physical changes that we were working on. We got closer together. And more than anything through this is we were focused the entire time on what we wanted. So we were not able to take note of all of the little things that were like less than luxury, to where you go, this kind of sucks, like this, that, or the other, because we were so focused on our goal and what we wanted. And that's my thing with today is that, how do we get started with this tough year? And, never mind what happened with the elections, this, that, and the other. The fact is that some people are worried. Some people were worried before. But what do we do with this? What do we do if you're fearing this, that, or the other? Do you stop working on your fitness? Do you stop working on your business? Answer is no, not at all. In fact, Lauren and I decided that, because again, the fact is that I don't like the way that the election went. I'm not going to talk about it, but I don't like the way that it went. But guess what? None of those individuals are responsible for my success fitness-wise, my success business-wise, my marriage success, meaning that we're connecting and enjoying one another.
Yep.
Those are up to us, but we cannot keep those things up if we're constantly being pinged back and forth and reacting to the stimuli of the world happening. So what I do, this is my word of the year that I got, is that I'm working on gratitude/gratefulness for the year. Why? Do I struggle with that? Nope, I don't struggle with that unless I'm worried. When I'm worried or when I'm not really in a place where I just that I would say that I enjoy, I tend to focus on lack or what needs to be fixed or what is dissatisfying about what I'm going through. Right. Now, I do that in a logical sense to be able to say, like, this could be better. I'm a serial entrepreneur and I want to fix everything and repair it and make it better. However, the whole key here is that we're going to be focused on what we can get out of this year in spite of whatever happens. And that only happens whenever I'm willing to dismiss and plug my ears from some of the naysayers, some of the crap that's out there, the news, turning off stimuli, or the stimulus in this case, turning off the stimulus that's preventing your vision from focusing on your marriage, your business, your health. So that's where I do, and this is why I chose that word for this year for me. I'm starting with gratitude in mind, because when I'm focused on what I'm grateful for, Lord, this house is amazing, and telling her thank you for things, and just being grateful for our home, our business, the fact what we get to do. When I start off in that mindset, it's very, very difficult to also be thankful and then in that same breath turn and go, but we got to worry about this, and this isn't done, and that's not done. When you're focused on those things, it begins to put you in abundance mindset, so that you're going, yeah, and we have this. And what you do is you compound on it. So it's like, I'm grateful for this house. And I know that this year, because, God, you've given us this house, and because this is where we're at, and we're going to do this, this, and this, I'm going to make sure that I put all of my efforts into maintaining this place as a sanctuary for me. So what happens is, when you're grateful for it, number one, you stay in an appreciative mode. Number two, you start working harder to maintain it rather than to get the new thing. That's what gratitude does. And it prevents you from focusing on the fears that usually will cause you to not even be grateful for the home you're in or the food on your table, and so on and so forth.
Right. And so we've talked about grieving, we've talked about gratitude, and I think one of the other important things is that you need to have people in your life who champion who you are and and I'm going to use this term because it's important, but what your eternal purpose is. Right. A lot of people are going through life with just this, with what they think is purpose, but if you don't know your eternal purpose, and let me tell you something, every one of you watching this, every human being who isn't watching this, has an eternal purpose, but it is up to you to figure out what that is and where that comes from, and you guys already know where we stand on that. If you're missing that, you're going to constantly go around the mountain trying to figure out why you're not fulfilled. But you've got to have people in your life who are going to champion you and who are going to remind you, even in the seasons of uncertainty, that you're doing what you're called to do, that you've got this, you're not alone, all of those things. So when Lance and I were living with my parents championed us. You guys are doing something so brave. Yep. You guys are stepping out in faith to run a business that God has called you to run. His mom championed us. We had friends that we're still friends with that championed us. I can remember a good friend of ours saying, you guys started your business with 2 dumbbells out of your dining room. Yep. And that's something that was constantly reminded us. And then when we moved our studio from Warrenton and it moved into Lake St. Louis, remember that you guys started your studio with 2 dumbbells out of your dining room? Like, that's where all of that started. 2 dumbbells, 10-pound dumbbells, which was like, what, $20?
Well, I was more than that, but yeah.
Whatever, $40, whatever.
Yeah.
Weights are expensive now. But that's what we started with. Yeah. But those dumbbells represented something so much bigger and so much greater than what those dumbbells were, right, in the physical sense. But without those people championing us, and if we would have listened to the naysayers, and if we would have listened to the people that didn't believe in us, we would have had a really hard time sticking it out. Because I think that's kind of what separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, is who's strong enough to stick it out.
That's it.
When things are uncertain, when life is hard. Which one of you guys are strong enough to stick it out? When it takes fighting for everything that you've got, who's tough enough to stick it out?
And the thing of it is the reason we're doing this today is because you really want to start off on the right path when you're doing this. You want to be intentional from the get-go, to where you're just to say, again, if you're watching this video right now, I would implore you to slow yourself down before you're reacting about what happened in any election, what happened last week in work, what happens, or what you're being told might come down the pike, and simply ask yourself, what is my goal to get out of this year? And I'm not talking about just financial or whatever. I'm talking about, like, what are my minimum expectations? Because I can tell you mine. You know, mine is very simply like, never mind, you know, some of the loftier goals. The fact of the matter is, I will keep myself fit this year no matter what the world looks like.
Yep.
I will also focus on my business and making sure I'm helping my clients like there's no tomorrow.
Yep.
I will also make dang sure that this entire year, Lauren and I are focused on growing our relationship by proxy, or I would say by definition of together and individually. Those are things that we're deciding on. Those are non-negotiables for us.
Absolutely.
Never mind what happens with finances. We're going to set financial goals and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, we also know that because, you know, we trust that God provides for us. So we don't really, you know, worry about is there not going to be food on the table? Or are we not going to have this? So that's not one that we even, you know, think about. And let me just tell you something. You know, that if you want that, let us know, reach out to us, because that's the sort of confidence that we get to have with this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we don't have stressful months.
Nope.
Lauren and I are very high strung. We get stressed out about a lot. That's why we use so much mindset stuff.
Things that people probably don't get stressed out about. We do.
Guaranteed. Absolutely. So, you know, I get bothered by little small stuff, but that's the point, guys, is that this is what we're talking about. Today marks a day that you get to decide. Not what the government decides, not what the TV or the media or other people decide for you. You get to decide what you're going to do in spite of crazy things that happen. So my point with all of this is just simply to say that you're not going to be able to avoid these, you know, inevitable situations where somebody passes, a job is lost, a car breaks down, somebody leaves, or whatever. There's all these things that can happen. And you can sit and ask why, which is a terrible thing to ask, because your subconscious will start giving you all kinds of crazy reasons.
You're never going to get that answer.
You're not going to get that answer. Or you can simply ask yourself, well, what do I do now in spite of this? But that can only happen whenever you know what it is that you want. Well, what is it that I want? This year, I want these things. I want my relationship to grow, my business to grow. And I don't mean just I mean in depth. I mean in security. I mean in certainty.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for self-development in both physical, mental, emotionally, and spiritually for me.
Right.
So those are the things that I expect, no matter who's in office, no matter who passes this year, no matter which client stops or which clients don't start. It doesn't matter. Those are my expectations. And I will be intentional with my actions to make sure that those actions are aligned with those desires, because I'm unwilling to just settle and have a crappy year because somebody wasn't in the office that shouldn't have been, blah, blah, blah. Or, so, yeah, but you don't get it because I travel. Yeah, but you don't get it because of this. I get it. I work with all kinds of people, and I'm just simply telling you, whatever you can do in your life to be intentional and grateful, that is going to help you to stay focused on what you want rather than being jerked around by what happens.
Yep.
That's the whole key.
Agreed. I think it's important to know that, and we said this before in other videos, that you don't want to always be reacting to everything.
Yep.
You know, and that's a lot of the problem that we see. And we do it too, guys.
Oh
Just
my
so
gosh.
you know, we do. And then we go, shoot, man, we didn't really plan. You know, I mean, you can't plan everything someone's saying,
Yep.
but sometimes you do.
Yeah.
And so when you realize you're doing that, you kind of got to take a step back and
Yep.
put the things that you know are supposed to be in place forward.
That's it. So the thing that we'll leave you guys with is something that we'll talk about alignment on another video, but this really does come down to alignment, because the fact of the matter is as soon as you step outside of your goals or what your desired values are for this year, you actually step into alignment, more of a plan of either apathy or stagnation, or one that is of depression. You're making a choice though. So what I'm telling you is to start and set what your plan is so that you don't accidentally align yourself with someone else's plan, because their plan is not going to be in keeping you in mind or focused for that. And so that's the whole key, guys, is that if you start off deciding what you're going to have, what you want, and live in a land of abundance as opposed to a land or a mindset of scarcity, you're going to make choices that beget the outcomes that you want, even though the environment doesn't look like it would be able to produce those sort of things. Yep. I'm telling you that your mindset and your actions, your follow through, has so much more to do with what you will accomplish and how much joy or fulfillment you'll have this year, in, I would say, exponentially compared to whatever else happens politically or whatever else happens with this, that, or the other. So keep that in mind. Focus on these things. Do not let any event, any circumstances pull you away from the life that you deserve, because that's what this is all about. So choose. Don't act like you're getting some hand that you're dealt. Choose what you want and align your habits to get that thing.
Great.
So,
and don't give up.
heck yeah, that's
Don't
it.
give up.
So
Don't give
be
up.
crazy persistent, even whenever it looks crazy insane. We've done that a million times, and every time we talk about we've talked about giving up on something, and we go, yeah, but man, we've gotten so far, and this, that, so just, stay the course.
Yep.
Have your people, and make sure that you're focused on what matters most.
And I'll say this too, for those of you who are believers on here, if you're thinking about giving up something, you better know that you know that you know that you heard from the Lord to do that. If you haven't, then you're making a mistake. So make sure that you keep going, unless he said it's time to move, time
That's
to
it.
shift.
So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in on this one. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, or if you just got some value out of this, or you just want to resonate. Feel free to comment below also, and just let us know some of the things you're kind of going with. But what I want to challenge you to do is, when you're putting your comment below, if you do this, to say this is what's happened. The challenge here is that you're going to put what's happened that's nerve-wracking, stressful, and then I want you to pivot and to put on there, but here is where I'm going to win. Here's where I'm going to not let this defeat me. So that's our rule in our Master Your Body Confidence group, is that you can share some things that are going on in your life that may not be great, but you got to share along with it one solution or perspective that you're focusing on in order to not let this thing defeat you. And that's what I want you guys to do too. So that's it, guys. Hope you guys have